Modify family elements. This is a very interesting system task function because it's going to allow me to massively modify a lot of different elements of a family. So let's imagine I have a very large data table and I want to execute a script, or I want to copy paste a value in lots of different records. Okay, so let's imagine I'm working with an Excel sheet and I have hundreds of rows, and I say, okay, I'm going to grab all these rows and I'm going to paste a value in all of these rows, and I massively change all that data. Or, for example, if I'm using a database, sometimes a programmer might want to execute a script that massively changes the data in a certain table. Well, with this system task, we're basically going to do the same. And there's three different options that I'm going to explain now. Here we have an example. We have an example where we have the panel of the process, and we're going to be working with a family, it's called treaty, and another family that's called countries. And here we have all these different records. And these records are actually related to the elements in this other family. Okay, and these are the values we have in the panel. So the first option we're going to see is going to allow us to modify records based on a prefix. So let's imagine in the panel of my process, I have a prefix with a certain value. For example, Spain. This is going to allow me, based on this prefix, to change any of the values that I have in the record of Spain. So in this case, I'm not really going to massively change the values in a lot of records. All I'm going to do is change the value in one unique record. And you might ask, what would be the difference between using this option and using suffixes? Because obviously with a suffix, I can also change the values of this record. The advantage of this option is that we don't need suffixes in the panel of our process. All we have to do is map the values from the panel of our process to this record. And when the flow reaches the system task, it's going to automatically update the values of this record. Okay, so that would be the main difference. I don't need to use any suffix in the panel of the process. But now let's see the other options. These are a bit more interesting. I could select a pre-filter. And what's going to happen if I select a pre-filter? Let's say I want to massively change the values in the records of a family based on a pre-filter. Well, it means that all those records that meet a certain condition are going to be automatically modified, changed. Okay, we're going to update their values. So let's imagine I want to change the field risk, where it has priority T, high, and medium. I want to massively change all the elements that belong or that meet the condition that in the field continent they have the value Europe. Well, I want to change their values. Okay, so then I could, let's imagine, I don't know, in Europe there's a lot of countries and I have a lot of records. I want the flow to reach the system task and massively change the risk in all of these records based on this pre-filter, on this condition that I set. So this would be one option that would allow me to massively modify data in the families. And the other option here would be using a relation. So let's imagine I have a relation between this element here that's called BRICS and these countries, China, Russia, and India. Okay, so what I'm going to do, I'm going to massively change the values in these records, but based on a relation. So the system is going to look for all the records that are related to this element here called BRICS, and it's going to change a certain value. Here we can see the configuration. First thing we're going to do is select the system task with a function that is going to allow us to modify elements. And in this first example, what I'm going to do is I'm going to select a family, and down here I'm going to select a prefix. We already mentioned that if we select a prefix, we're only going to be able to modify one unique element. So down here I'm going to map the values between the panel of the process and the destination record. These values have to be compatible. Of course, the system is going to ensure that we don't map any not compatible fields. But obviously, if I have in the destination a numeric field, I'm not going to be able to select a one-line text in the source. Okay, and then we have the result up here. Okay, the next scenario I'm going to show you guys is when we select a family here, and down here we select a pre-filter. Basically, it's the same. Down here we have to map the the values, but in this pre-filter, what we have is the condition. Okay, so we select the family that's going to be affected by the operation. Then we select the pre-filter. Once we selected this pre-filter, we can map the values from the source, that's the panel of the process, to the destination. And the last example would be using a relation. If I'm using a relation, first I'll have to select the family that's going to be affected by this operation. And then I'm going to click here on relation. And down here, I'll have to select a prefix. This means that I have to have a prefix with a value. Okay, let's imagine here I have my prefix with the element selected that was called bricks. And here I'm going to select the relation between the element that's selected in this prefix and this other family. So between one family and the other family of countries. So here I select the family treaty, or the prefix treaty. Here I select the relation between countries and treaties. And here I already had selected the family countries. So when the flow reaches this object, it's going to change the record of all the countries that meet the relation with the element that's selected in this prefix.